Hey everybody, welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Jeremy.
And he's Jeremy, and I'm also Joey.
And he's also Joey.
Yeah.
Is the way that works, I think. This is FeedbackLoop, the podcast where the only music podcast hosted by Jeremy and Joey.
Yeah.
At least us specifically.
Yeah, there might odds are that at least at some point there's been a Jeremy and a Joey on a music podcast, but
I don't believe it. We're the only ones. We're trendsetters here. We are doing work for the Jeremys and Joeys of the world. You know, the J&J dynamic duo that is this podcast.
Wasn't that like a proposed name for our podcast?
Probably.
Like J&J.
It's a bad name, but I think that's why it was proposed.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to have some cheese.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Speaking of cheese, segue. Dethalbum 4 came out. We don't have a topic this week, by the way, people. We're just rambling today. So we'll see how long we can filibuster. But Dethalbum 4 released I guess a week ago today. No, wait, it was just Tuesday. That's right. It was weird. It was just like a Tuesday drop. I said a week because I was like, okay, Friday is when music releases. Not the case with Dethalbum 4. It coincided with the release of the new Doomstar Army film of Metalocalypse. Longtime listeners of the podcast will know that Joey and I are both big fans of Metalocalypse and Deathclock and Brendon Small. So yeah, let's talk about the album for a while. I suppose
I'm okay with that. It's for all of you who haven't listened to it and who have previously listened to Deathclock. Sorry, I almost said Metalocalypse as the band name.
They're interchangeable.
Well, on Spotify, it says Metalocalypse : Deathclock, which is
that's
just
how they
fucking...
have their metadata tagged. I think it's an Adult Swim thing.
Oh, okay.
For branding purposes, you know.
That makes sense. But anybody who has previously listened to Deathclock and has not listened to Dethalbum 4, go do it. Pause the podcast even and just go listen to it and then come back. But so my initial, I guess, worry whenever I heard that they were putting out an album after all this time was that, like, it's been so long. Is it still going to sound like Deathclock? Is it? Has Brendon Small been influenced in ways that have made it their ways into like his subconscious to where the Deathclock sound will not be the same? And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised that it still sounds like Deathclock. Like it sounds like excellent Deathclock. Like
it is good. And I think like there is that little bit of worry. I mean, the same applies to the show, right? The movie. You haven't seen the movie. I have.
I've not.
And I think going into it, there was a concern that like, is his writing style changed? Right? Can he still write Metalocalypse jokes and humor and vibes, I suppose? And I'm not going to talk about that. We can talk about that next week, perhaps, or next episode after you've done so. But there's also an excitement with that of like, on the positive side, I guess, instead of worrying like, hey, can he write an album that sounds like Deathclock? It's okay. Well, how can he make it interesting? Like how have his tastes changed, and how has his writing style changed in a more like interesting way, I suppose. And I think we got a good balance, honestly. I think there is still like Aortic Desecration was the lead single. It was the single. And gosh, it's so hard to like not talk about the movie, because I mean the album and the movie are kind of tied. In a lot of ways. But having seen the movie, I have more respect for the song. I think it was a weak single, honestly. When it came out, I listened to it and I was like, okay, like it's the heavy Deathclock. There's not a lot of melody in that song, I guess. It's not like the melodic kind of spacey stuff that I like Brendon Small for. A lot of the time it's just kind of a straightforward, in your face kind of, the lyrics are all like death metal lyrics, like typical tropey kind of shit, I think. I mean, there's still a tinge of humor in anything that Brendon Small writes, but yeah. So I guess all of that to say, I was a little concerned that single kind of bounced off me. But in context of the album specifically, I think it works. And then having seen the film, it definitely works, I think. Otherwise, though, yeah, solid album. all the way around. I think the opening is a little soft the first time I listened to it. I wasn't sold on the opening, but by like halfway through the album, it picked up, and I was like, yeah, this is what I wanted. This is what I needed, kind of a thing. So good on you, Mr. Brendon Small.
I agree, and I gotta say I agree with you. My first listen, like Gardener of Vengeance, was good. I like it is a good song. But then going into Aortic Desecration as the second song, I was like, where like I
has to be context.
Yeah, I have a very like I have a need inside of me that needs to be filled by like the melodic passages that Brendon Small makes so well, and that was missing from Aortic Desecration. Then it gets into Poisoned by Food, the third track, and like I was hearing it and I was like, okay, yes, this is
song.
It. Yeah, like it's just funny. Like it's just I can imagine. I haven't seen the movie. I can imagine many scenarios in which Nathan Explosion is providing the vocals to this song. And then I mean, it really fucking turns around the middle of the album, but then going into the back half of this album, like especially starting with fucking Horse of Fire, dude, like, and
Love
then immediately going into Dead Face, which I don't know anything about the music, like music theory of Dead Face or anything, but the fact that it's in all caps and it's DEADFACE. I feel like that has to be something with like notes or chords. Jeremy's giving me approving nods.
It is. But I'm smiling. I'm so giddy because just like it is. Because like I don't know, that song. I thought it was interesting that it was in all caps. Right, it stands out.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that deep about it. I was like, okay, it's just like a stylized thing. But you're absolutely right. There is meaning there, both in the movie and in the theory of it.
Yeah.
That's just like that. It excels. It what's the word I'm looking for? Not excels. It raises the song to a new level.
Yeah,
I suppose. But yeah, like I don't want to say that all of the songs on this album are in the movie or have context within the movie. Dead Face is one of them that absolutely does, and then Aortic Desecration also does. So yeah, it's not like the last Doomstar Requiem, which was an opera. Like the movie was a rock opera in whole, and so the soundtrack to that movie was kind of an album itself.
Yeah.
This is a death album, right? It is separate. It is its own thing. Much like the way the previous 3 death albums have been, where they like, some of the songs are in the show, even most of them in some cases of the death albums, but like it's its own thing.
Yeah.
So there's not like a 1-to-1, I guess. So Poisoned by Food, I don't think is in the movie. So sorry to get shoot that down a little bit.
Maybe it's better in my mind, anyways.
Yeah, for sure. But like, solid songs, right? You got the humor from like Poisoned by Food. Mutilation on a Saturday night is just like, it's a funny concept.
Yeah,
it's a funny like play on tropes and stuff of just like going out and having a great time on a weekend, but in typical Death Clock fashion, you know. And then like towards the back half of this album is stacked with just like good shit. And it's just
I love that it ends on Mermaider 3. Like it just it speaks to my soul. I watched the show, so I knew that there wasn't going to be a Mermaider 3 on the Death Album 3, but it just like seemed like I was just like, there's been Mermaider 1, Mermaider 2, and like Mermaider 2, the Water God, like it was one of my favorites. It was my ringtone for a while, and that was before I could buy ringtones. I played it on my fucking iTunes account and recorded it on my phone just so it could be my ringtone.
Fuck yeah.
But
that is, it's nice to see him kind of picking back up. There's part of me that's like, okay, like he's doing it for the fans. It's fan service. Right, but I'm a fan, so I can't really complain about that. I am curious. So how did you feel about Death Album 3 overall? Because like it was obviously it didn't have a Mermaider on it, but I feel like from what I heard from one of my other friends, he kind of bounced off of it.
I won't say I bounced off of it. It may be, and this is going to sound worse than it actually is.
Sure.
It may be my least favorite
yeah.
of the previous three, but I mean, there's still just like, I mean, Impeach God. I fucking love that song.
I love that song,
like,
dude.
It's so good. I love the death clockness of I Ejaculate Fire. It's like it is a quintessential Death Clock album, and I am so glad that we have it. But like compared to, I guess, the initial impact of the first Death album, and then the growth between the first and second Death albums, it just puts Death Album 2 on like another level for me.
Yeah, the production quality, like the jump in production quality even between the first and second Death albums is huge. And I think there is still growth between Death Album 2 and Death Album 3. I'm a big fan of Death Album 3. I fucking love that album. I'm not sure I would say it's my favorite, but I love Death Album 3 more for reasons that I would expect people to not love it, right? And that like it's less death clocky, it's less jokey, it's less humorous overall, and it's more about progression and growth and stuff like that. I mean, there are obviously like I Ejaculate Fire is the opener, right? It's not that there's no humor in it, but it's more like, I don't know, it's a bit more refined, I guess, than the other two Death albums. And I think Death Album 4 has found a good balance of kind of reining it back in, making it a Death album, right? Making it more death clocky with the writing and the music and stuff. So yeah, I expect other fans of the Death albums to really, really fuck with Death Album 4.
Yeah, like it's, I guess I would say, like the jump in quality that I got from Death Album 1 to Death Album 2, I kind of feel like there has been that jump in quality with Death Album 4 for me, I guess.
Sure.
I won't speak for other Death Clock
fans. I don't necessarily agree on a quality standpoint, but it is a quality of it. Like there is like a characteristic of it that I think was missing in Death Album 3. As far as that stuff. And again, I'm a huge fan of Death Album 3.
Oh yeah.
Just like as music, right? It's just like, it's good shit. However, I don't know. I guess the reason that my friend bounced off it is that it's not death clocky as much. It's like it's its own thing, I guess. It's very separate. And calling it Death Album 3 maybe feels a little weird because it's not.
It's still like, I will always like anything Brendon Smalls does. Like, and I feel like Death Album 3 was more of a Brendon Smalls, like him trying to get his foot in the door to like writing other stuff. Because Galacticon was after Death Album 3, right? Like,
I think the first one was already out.
Was it already out?
Because Death Album 2 was, or not Death Album, Galacticon 2 was supposed to be like Brendon wrapping shit up with Metalocalypse when Adult Swim basically fucked him over.
Yeah.
So I think the chronology of it is Galacticon 1, Death Album 3, Galacticon 2, Doomstar Requiem.
Okay.
I think. I'm not 100% on that. I guess we can fact check that.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Well, and I will say, like, the later seasons
first,
of...
Sorry. The first Galacticon I remember is, I'm pretty sure earlier, just because it has kind of a more like... Yeah, it was 2012. And I think Death Album 3 came out in 2013.
According to Spotify, it came out October 16th of 2012.
Oh, so the same year he released Galacticon and Death Album 3. Interesting.
Either way, later seasons of Death Clock, like, I love the beginning, the first two seasons of Death Clock.
Yeah.
Or of Metalocalypse. But seasons 3 and 4, I feel like, is where as a show it gets like legendary status.
That's so interesting.
Like, I just feel like the interweaving of it, or the scale of it all,
definitely
builds so much. And I mean, they had longer episodes. So like I like the later seasons more than the first two seasons. So I do find it odd that like I tend to gravitate towards the earlier albums, but the later version, the later show, I guess.
Yeah, because again, like Dethalbum 3 is good in its own right, but it feels different. It feels distinctly not Deathclock.
Yeah.
I guess I can't say that because that seems unfair. It feels less Deathclocky than the first two albums.
Yeah.
At the very least. I think it's interesting, and maybe we can talk about this after you've seen the movie. I was literally thinking about, like, before recording this, I was like, I wonder how Joey feels, or not you specifically, but I was just like, the way the movie went and felt to me versus, you know, how that compares to the writing and the flow of each season of Metalocalypse. And I think there's like it's interesting to me what you're going to think of the movie now that I know that you prefer seasons 3 and 4, specifically, because there was a big like shift in like quality and writing, and like you said, the duration of each episode and stuff, and the tone of everything I think changed, which is why I guess I expect more Metalocalypse fans, in air quotes, to be fans of the first two seasons, you know, that kind of pure rawness to it, I guess.
Yeah.
And just kind of like quick, snappy 15-minute episodes versus the later stuff, which, I mean, I guess season 4 did go back to the shorter runtime, if I remember correctly.
I thought it did.
But it still had bigger themes, I suppose. Yeah. It was less like episodic and more serial. I mean, it was still like episodic, but there was more plot. There was more like,
they fleshed it out more.
Right,
like,
there's more lore.
Yeah, and in the beginning, it's not like Salacia and the fucking tribunal and all that shit wasn't like alluded to or shown, but it just, you start getting into like the deep shit, which is why I was so pissed whenever it was like season 4 ended and then nothing, dude. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? It was really starting to get really good.
Yeah, Brendon Small got fucked over.
Yeah.
But he's cool about it. He's like, Brendon Small is such a cool guy, just in general. Yeah. He seems to like, he's like, yeah, that's show business. Like, that happens. There's nothing I can do about it. It's out of my hands. There's no sense in being upset about it.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. But yeah, I think he did really well with the movie, and that it alludes to things. So I guess I'm going to get this out there. For those who don't know, Galacticon 2, as I kind of mentioned earlier, was written as a way for Brendon Small to conclude the Deathclock story without using Deathclock branding.
Yeah.
So it's nothing explicitly like talking about Murderface, but there's a song called My Name is Murder, right? It's that kind of thing where it's like, clearly there's something there.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like finishing a story. But I thought it was interesting that he alludes to that album, essentially, in the new movie. There are references to things that only happened on Galacticon 2.
Oh my god.
So if you have not listened to Galacticon 2 or thought about Galacticon 2 or the lyrics or whatever, then there's still a mystery to it, right? Because it's song lyrics that you're kind of interpreting. But I thought it was very well done and interesting that he was like, okay, instead of rewriting Galacticon 2, but this time we're actually using official Metalocalypse characters, we're going to wrap this up in a Metalocalypse way.
Yeah.
While still acknowledging that like my original plans did still happen, kind of a thing. Which is super interesting to me.
Man, I'm so fucking pumped to watch this movie. Like, holy shit.
It's worth watching for sure. I would love to talk about it afterwards, either on the podcast or not, just because it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
My God. Metalocalypse is always going to be one of those things that, like, I was glad that I was there when it started and that I got into it as the first season was coming out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was one of those things that like me and my friend Mitch at the time, who was my neighbor, we were like the two people who were into it. And we would like set our clocks because it would come on at like midnight or some shit on weekdays. And we were still in high school. So it was like, we would be like, okay, I'm going to wake up and hopefully my parents don't catch me so I can watch this episode, right? Whatever.
Yeah. And then like being through it all, I was like getting flashbacks. It's been so long since there's been Metalocalypse.
Yeah.
Like
10 years.
Yeah. The Doomstar Requiem, I'm pretty sure it was like 2013, which is fucking wild. Maybe a little bit later.
The album came out in 2013.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the show did too. But like 10 years of no Metalocalypse, of no Death Clock. And so, like, obviously I've watched the shows since then because I own the Blu-rays, right? So, like, I'll watch through them from time to time. But, like, just acknowledging that, like, it's been a long-ass time, it kind of, like, sparked some nostalgia in me of just, like, oh, this is fresh, new Metalocalypse that we've not had in 10 years. And then, like, even before, like, the Requiem, like, season 4 happened, I guess relatively shortly beforehand, but, like, I feel like there's a big gap between seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, and season 4 was very short. It was like 10 episodes of like 15-minute episodes or something. So yeah, it was just like, it transported me back to, like, thinking, I remember going over to somebody's house to watch the Doomstar Requiem. Somebody that now lives in Georgia. I now live in Washington. Like, there's not that kind of, like, connection anymore. But, like, I just, like, had vivid, like, memories of, like, yeah, like, I remember, like, sitting in the weird, like, one of those, like, string woven chairs.
Oh my
that have
God.
a bunch of gaps in them or whatever. I was just, like, sitting on that at some person's apartment and, like, watching the shit. to
good
now.
Times.
Yeah.
Very good times.
Great times. Speaking of great times, what else have you been listening to lately outside of the Dethalbum, Joey?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the new Pile song that just fucking came out today, Scaling Walls.
Yep.
If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it.
I haven't.
If you haven't watched it, go watch the music video. It's great. It's Pile. I'm not gonna put any preconceived notions into your head because I know you haven't listened to it yet. But I mean, of course, I was gonna like it. Like, there was no chance of me not liking it.
For sure.
I have been listening to a lot of Pile, and I've been reevaluating a lot of, like, I've been really, like, paying. Not that I never paid attention to the lyrics, but I've been
analyzing it a bit more.
Yeah, I've been trying to, like, decode some lyrics more in maybe ways that I hadn't, and realized some more things. Like, I got kind of I hate to say this, but, like, left-leaning politics that were on Green and Gray, with, like, the soft hands of Stephen Miller and stuff. But, like, I had never really fully, like, I guess, paid attention to the lyrics on Bug on Its Back. But it's, like, pretty much just a song about, like, the old saying that's like, they came for these people and I didn't whatever because I wasn't one of them, and they came for whatever, but I would never expect them to do it to me. Then they came for me and there was no one left, and, like, whatever, of, like, you all know how I feel about shit, like the fucking Republican views of, like, fuck everybody else, I got mine, and then eventually you're not going to have yours anymore because fuck you too, you're not one of the top dogs, like, you're going to get fucked over.
But speaking of which, in real person news dating this episode, Mr. Donald Trump has been he's been going through some shit this week.
He's got a mug shot online.
He's got a mug shot online,
which is wild. That's something I'm not going to celebrate until he's actually, like, in jail.
Yeah, he's starting to see consequences of his actions.
God, I fucking hope it happens. Oh my God, Alyssa was telling me about somebody that something that she read or whatever, where it was like they should just put Donald Trump in, like, a Truman Show type deal where he, in this fake universe, he won, like, he's president again.
I mean, that's the fucked up thing, is that we're kind of living that still.
Yep.
There are 100% people that are still like, nah, he won that election fair and square. You all fucking cheated. He's still, and it's like, to get back to the Pile song, like, that's exactly the kind of people that I'm assuming that song is, like, referencing of that kind of, like, just people that are willing to die for Donald Trump to be president, just have no concept of, like, how much they're fucking themselves.
That fucking it just blows my mind. And, like, before all the but both sides are bad people, not that anybody fucking listens to this
exactly,
like, or would comment.
This is a, like, politics podcast.
Yeah. But, like, I get that, like, Joe Biden doesn't fucking care about me, but I understand that.
Right.
Like, that's a thing.
You're not delusional.
That's a thing that I get. I know that nobody at that level gives two shits about me, and I'm not going to fucking.
Our government is run by old fucks who just don't. They don't connect with us. Being,
they don't understand what life is like now.
Yeah, and also they have more money than like we'll ever see. So like,
and that was the shit that I'm just not like. I won't continue ranking.
Yeah. That's for post podcast discussion, perhaps.
Yeah,
but
back to Pile. I've been, especially Green and Gray, the whole album, been listening and seeing a lot of stuff. I guess just making connections, because Rick writes his lyrics in such a kind of vague way,
mysterious way. Yeah,
but like they also clearly mean something. And like
he's a poet.
Yeah, and I've always known. I mean, Green and Gray, whole strong album, excellent album.
Go listen to our podcast where we talk about Green and Gray.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, let's do it again.
Hey, I'm down.
But so Hiding Places, the second to last song, it's just like I've been like paying more attention to the lyrics, and I always knew what the song was about, but now I'm making more of the connections. Like I don't have the lyrics up or anything because I didn't know I was going to be talking about this.
Sure,
but like just the lyrics of like, you're holding your cards so close that you can't read them anymore, and there's a time limit, and that's the only hand that you can play from now on. Like talking about growing old, you're keeping like to yourself. And I mean, there's a lot of like, even on Firewood, the opener, he's talking about like your thoughts and your opinions are now calcified, and you can't change them as you grow older if you stay in a vacuum. But it's like,
that's the whole contrast of that album, right? It's green and gray. When you're green, you're naive, you're young, you're whatever, versus when you're older, you're gray. And that kind of transition of like realizing that, hey, I'm old now, and I don't have the agency in my own life necessarily that I once had.
It's just a very good album.
It is.
And the new song, I've been listening to a lot of it, and then the new song came out today, and I just kept listening to a lot of Pile. But I revisited Mourn by Corbin recently.
Oh yeah,
just because
I was thinking about him last night.
I was just listening to it. It might have been last night. It might have been like a couple of days ago. I don't know. But I was just playing some games at night, and I was like, it'd be a good album to throw on.
Hell yeah.
Mourn. And then I saw that he had released a new album within the last year or so, and I listened to it. Yeah. I was not necessarily a fan of it. It kind of went in a direction. His sound went in a direction that I feel is too modern, sad boy,
I felt like
or
that
whatever
was what you were gonna say.
Yeah. Like it sounds, which like if that's the sound he wants, go for it, dude. It's a popular sound. There's a lot of people that are probably gonna like that album.
Sure.
But I like the stripped backness of a lot of the production on Mourn, and that's what I really gravitate towards. So I listened to Mourn, and it was great.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Mourn. Also, go listen to our episode. We talked about Mourn. Great discovery for me. Both Pile and Corbin, like two moments where Joey really knocked it out of the park in the recommendation game. I think for me.
What have you been doing?
I've been listening to Presidents of the United States of America.
Hell yeah! Go check out our album.
I can't stop. I cannot stop listening to Presidents of the United States of America. I've been listening to their 2013 album, which I think is their most recent album.
Yeah.
Called Kudos to You. So that's my shout out, my big shout out. That's what I've been listening to a whole lot. It's just fun. They have like such a like Chris Ballou being the man that he is, who like also writes children's songs and stuff, incorporates a lot of like alliteration and a lot of like funny adjectives and stuff into his songs. And they're not all like serious. They're not all like, they don't have like a deep meaning to them. And that's nice. Just having something that's fun and simple and lighthearted. And Kudos to You really, really excels at that, I think, where there's not like, there's clearly not an overarching message. It's just a collection of fun songs that are just silly and have great music to them. So I've listening to that a lot. And then Discovery of the Week, Audio Tree posted an artist, Matilda Marigolds, who I think is from New York City. She did an Audio Tree live, and how they post them is they post the full set so you can watch the full thing. It's like 45 minutes, but they also post a specific song from that set as an individual video. So I clicked on that, and it's called Sonder was the name of her song, and I was just like, yeah, this is my music. This is the music that I like listening to.
Yeah.
So that was a fun discovery for me this week. Go check out her Audio Tree stuff.
Well, I think I will. I have so much time to kill, so why not?
Hell yeah, dude. We do not have much time to kill left in this podcast. So if you want to what is it? The VeggieTales things?
Oh,
I don't know why that popped into my head.
Yeah, because you said if you.
If you.
Oh, God.
Anyways.
So
I'm fucking
shit.
losing my mind. Music is pouring out of my ears and into my mouth. I don't know if that made sense. But if you want to drop us some comments, do so. Let us know what you've been up to. If you've listened to the new Dethalbum and what your thoughts are on the film, or don't spoil anything.
Yeah,
because it's still fresh. If you're listening to this in like a month, then sure, maybe. If you're listening to this in the year 2033, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
but don't be a dick.
Yeah,
don't spoil shit. If you haven't and you're curious, go watch the movie. Go listen to the Dethalbum.
Also, watch the entirety of the series too.
Also, watch the entirety of Metalocalypse. Yeah, that's not a new plug from us. We've said that before. So let this be our sign. We're just badgering it because it's good. It's good shit. Even if you don't like death metal. I mean, you might not like it as much as us if you don't like metal, but still, give it a shot.
I mean, and Deathclock's a very accessible death metal band. Like, for sure. I feel like
it's very, very melodic.
Yeah, like if you don't like death metal because you've listened to like Cannibal Corpse or like fucking what's that? I was trying to think of the super vulgar name of the one, but I can't think of it.
Yeah,
it's like Anus something.
Yeah,
but I cannot think of their fucking name right now. Or like yeah. Sorry that I just went to Cannibal Corpse as the first thing, but
no, it's that's good. That's branding. They're a household name.
That is true. They were on Ace Ventura. So.
Yeah, they're fucking everywhere. They're in George Fisher, the singer for Cannibal Corpse, is in Metalocalypse.
A lot of very famous metal musicians.
It's true. It's very nice at the end of the new movie. There's like they're doing the credits and they're like showing the characters that each like voiced it. Tommy Blancha. We didn't even talk about this. Tommy Blancha returned for the voice of like Murderface and Toki.
Could he still do the voice? That's one question I have.
I'm not going to spoil anything.
Okay,
we'll talk about it when we talk about it.
Okay,
which I guess is already giving some vibes, but yeah.
In the trailer, what I thought was Murderface's voice sounded vastly different than what I remembered. So
yeah, I mean it's been that way for a while in my opinion.
Yeah,
but again,
he used to do the voice with like paper towels in his mouth or whatever. Right. So
yeah. I mean, and people like grow old.
Yeah,
they get gray. They're no longer green.
Yeah, especially after 10 years of not doing something.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, leave us comments. Let us know what you're listening to. Let us know what we should be listening to even. I'm always down for recommendations. It might end up on my backlog list for months, years, whatever, but I'll get around to it when I get around to it.
Yeah.
Stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.